Hello. Welcome back. It's Sarah from Roadworthy. This is not the best background, but classic, right? It's like the first really warm, sunny day, and the park is overrun. So I'm at a bench. There's like mud all around me. There's mud on the path in front of me, so nobody is coming down here. And I am in there's kind of a field around me, and crows are all over the place. I think eating. So so we're going for it. Um my little intro snippet showed me, my typical like out and about outfit, like looking completely ridiculous. But the puffy skirt, I'm really excited about. I made that. I made my puffy skirt from a jacket that I got at a thrift store for $7. So, it's too cold and wet to go hiking in this, spring, fall, um, with just leggings. I needed an extra layer, and I've had my eye on a puffy skirt for a long time, and I made one. So that is kind of what I've been up to this week. What have I been reading? Well, so last week I had mentioned that I was listening to Mercury Pictures Presents by Anthony Marra. And this is, oh, the sun's coming back out. Sorry. This is about Maria, who is an Italian immigrant. And she works at Mercury Pictures as an assistant producer. This starts in the late 30s, I think. So prior to World War II. And she works for Artie Feldman, who is one of the owners of Mercury Pictures and who is a Jewish immigrant from Poland. And it also involves Eddie, her partner. They're not married, although they've had a long-term relationship. And he is Chinese. He's American-born, but of Chinese ancestry. And so this is really, and then there's a bunch of other sort of minor characters, many of whom are European emigres, fleeing, the Nazis. So there's some German emigres, Polish, other Italian emigres fleeing Mussolini. And so they're all sort of at this, B-level, movie studio that just produces, cheap schlock. And and so it follows these characters and a lot of their backstory as we move into World War II. You get sort of the movie industry being under attack by the Senate as sort of being pawns of FDR and trying to create support for entering the war. As Pearl Harbor happens, and you have the executive order creating internment camps for Japanese Americans. You see how that affects Eddie's career, and LA as the Japanese community is sent to Manzanar. And 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 then Maria herself is subject to the Alien, oh my God, I'm blanking, the Alien something act. But essentially she can't um, move more than 5 miles away from her home. So, as the war is going on, Mercury Pictures is asked to create propaganda films for the military and what they call indoctrination films for new recruits. And so, you have the irony of these pro America films being created by a bunch of people who are um, having their civil rights removed from them. And then for Maria, you also have the added um, uh, layer of her being female in a very male dominated industry, and the sexism that she battles. Um, I absolutely loved, like, A Constellation of Vital Phenomenon by Anthony Marra is one of my favorite books. And one of the things that he says in an interview about that book was, someone had talked about the humor of that book really weighing or balancing the heartbreak of that book. And he made a comment that he thinks it's important as a writer to be able to play both ends of the piano keyboard. And in this book, he definitely plays the humor end of the keyboard very well. I mean, it's very funny, dry, witty, almost slapsticky lines sometimes. Um, but that the but that's not really balanced by um, the tragedy nearly as well as it is in his earlier books. So for me, this book was a lot of fun because I love his writing and I love his humor, but definitely does not have the emotional impact that his other books have. Then I listened to uh, Landscapes by Christine Alai. And this is for the Republic of Consciousness Prize. She is a Canadian writer, and this is uh, longlisted. What the, This is a book of ideas, and there's a lot of like philosophical musings in this book, which is not something that I normally like. Um, there is some plot, there's character, but it's a lot of discussion about art. Art with a little a, art with a big A. Um, and that's not normally my cup of tea, but I loved this book. And I think partly because Christine Lai is such an amazing writer. Her sentences are just wonderful. And there was enough going on in this book to captivate me. So what is this about? So this is about Penelope, and she is hired to work at a British estate. She's an art historian, and she's asked um, to. She does fellowship there, cataloging the art at this estate for the owner, Julian, and part of it is class, the commodification of art. Um, what does owning certain pieces of art say about the owner? Um, why does an owner or why does someone choose to buy certain pieces of art? Um, and so then um, and she eventually is asked to continue to stay on and become the archivist for the estate and is archiving things in the library. And one of the things that was really fascinating in this book to me was she inserts a lot about art that depicts rape. And, she goes through a lot of the works of the old masters and how uh, rape is eroticized. And then she goes into more contemporary times, starting in the 60s and 70s, where female artists were starting to uh, create art in response to that. And she goes through some of those pieces, and I just thought that was so interesting, and an interesting way paralleling Penelope's experience of uh, also being a victim of sexual assault. Um, and so that was very interesting. Again, there's a lot in here about sort of what is art, what is worthy of archiving, what is worthy of preserving. Um, the estate that they live at is completely crumbling and literally falling down, and how there'll be snippets of her um, things that she's archiving that are like ephemera that are in the library. So like people's like personal like travel diaries and things like that that are also sort of falling apart. Um, I don't think I'm really doing this book any justice, but this is not something that I think I would have really given a good chance to. Like, I think I would have DNF'd it thinking, oh, this isn't really for me. But I really pushed on and persevered, and then really, really enjoyed it. And if it weren't for reading it for the Republic of Consciousness long list and participating in Sarah's from Eyes on Indie, the Discord server, I may have given up on this book. And I'm so glad I kept going, because it was, I really, really, really enjoyed it. Another book that I did have on my TBR, but I think I would have again possibly DNF'd very quickly, is Lojman by Ebru Ojen. And this is translated from the Turkish by Aron, and Selin Gokcesu. God, I'm sure I'm butchering that. But and I love this cover. um, this book is savage and brutal. This book opens with a mother giving birth to her third child in her house alone with her other two children, who are their ages are not specified, but my vibe is like 8 and 5, something like that. And their dad has abandoned them after an argument with the mother, and a snowstorm has come. So so it's very unclear, is he abandoned them permanently? Did he just step away for a break and the snowstorm is preventing him from coming back? Um, but you have this, so they're sort of trapped in this house, and the the house is government housing, provided by the government, obviously, because the husband is a school teacher, and so Lojman is that institutional housing, and it's very gray and austere, and it's very claustrophobic. again, you get a sense that perhaps this is the author's feeling about the current Turkish government. But anyway, um, I grew up in New England, and I always think of snowstorms as sort of happy. It's quiet. It's it's like this gentle blanket is all over the world, and the air is crisp, and there's just, I don't know, something to me that's sort of joyful about a snowstorm. This is not joyful. This is nature is menacing. Nature is unforgiving and bleak in this book. And very quickly on, you get a sense that Selma, there is something not right. She um she's sobbing, she's laughing, she's sleeping a lot, or she's reading. She's completely indifferent and neglectful of her children. Her neighbors are worried. Um, the kids aren't well, but yet she drives them off. Um, the writing, there are parts of it that are repetitive, but there's parts of it that are sort of hypnotic, parts that are just frenetic. Um, it's unsettling. There are parts that are seriously savage, and all of this is sort of a reflection of what's going on in Selma's mind. Um, and then you also get her daughter's perspective, who is also, um, you know, talks about how she hates her mother, and um, it's plots to sort of undermine her mother. It is a truly brutal and unsettling. And I, this is not a, this is like one of like, can I say I recommend this? Hi, you'll enjoy this book. No one's going to enjoy this reading experience, but it's amazing. Like what what she's able to do in this book, and definitely she definitely has an impact on the reader. Probably not the impact I wanted, but it was impactful. Um, so a total 5-star, amazing literary achievement. But I'm not sure I would run out and recommend this to people. One of those books. So then I tried listening to Cahokia Jazz by Frances Spufford. And Frances Spufford wrote Golden Hill, about New York when it was New Amsterdam. Loved that book. And I DNF'd Light Perpetual, that was long listed for the Booker Prize a couple years ago. And so I had read that this was sort of great fun. And so I picked up this book. And I have to say, I DNF'd at about 100 pages. So let me, so what is this book? Oh, the sun is back out. So Cahokia Mounds are across from St. Louis. This is a National Historic Landmark. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is the largest and most significant settlement of the Mississippian culture. And it is the most complex pre-Columbian site north of Mexico. And at the height, people estimate that there were anywhere between 6 and 40,000 people uh, in and around the urban center of Cahokia. And it declined in about 1350. People speculate due to deforestation, pollution from overpopulation, just human waste, um, and overhunting. And so, it declined. But Spufford imagines what happens if Cahokia sort of kept going. And he imagines this alternate United States. And he imagines Cahokia in the 1920s being this very multi-ethnic culture of European Americans, Black Americans, and Indigenous Americans, all, living in the city of Cahokia. And um, and then that is mashed up with definitely a murder noir, mystery. So it totally opens with two sort of morally questionable cops, uh, you know, at night in the rain, you know, at a crime scene with a dead body. It's very noir. And so that all sounds super cool. Why did I DNF it? Well, after about 100 pages, really, the murder investigation is just starting. I mean, he's got like 100 pages of world building. So it was very dragging. And in fact, there was the chief of police is like, I want this solved quickly, and because of potential racial tensions. So there seemed to be, it was a white victim, but how the body was killed implies that it was uh, part of the indigenous community that killed him. So they're concerned about, this racial blow up. Why? It's never very clear. Like on the one hand, he describes it as a thriving multicultural community, but then on the other hand, there's this racial tension. I wasn't getting into it. I wasn't buying into this community that he was creating, and the murder investigation wasn't even like happening. And so I sort of lost patience. Um, so I'm feeling kind of bad. Like maybe Francis Spufford is like a one-hit wonder for me. I don't know. Anyway, so I feel bad, but I didn't like it. So what so what am I reading? I still have my short story collections, still have Singapore Grip going, and I most recently picked up Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. My son brought this home from college, and I grabbed it and I thought, well, I'll read that. So I'm enjoying it. I'm only 60 pages in, so I'm kind of excited. I did read Kindred, and that's the only Butler that I've read so far, so I'm kind of excited to read some of her other things. So I think the rain comes back tomorrow. Definitely it's gonna cool off. God, it would be so nice if I could film outside again next week. But in the meantime, I will catch up with you later. See ya.